Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you are having a fantastically awesome Friday. Yes, it is Friday. I told you on Monday, I told you if you just push through, the week is gonna fly, and I bet you it's flown by. Hasn't it flown by? It has for me. I hope it has for you anyway, and I hope you're gonna have an awesome weekend. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I'm gonna go out and pick some mushrooms tomorrow probably. We've had a lot of rain, so they should be out now, and I've seen on Facebook there's a lot of people getting porcinis and that already, so I feel like I may have missed the boat and I'm a bit late off the starting blocks, but that's alright, Better late than never, I say. Today we are reacting to how Teddy Roosevelt got shot and still did an 84-minute speech. Now you can thank TikTok for this, because I was scrolling through TikTok yesterday, as you do. I don't even know why I've got that app, but anyway, I follow a page on there about it's like history, weird history. It gives little snippets about some of the awesome things that have happened in the past. And this came up about how he got shot, and I was like, what? I never knew this. I never knew this at all. I have heard of Teddy Roosevelt. I believe, I may be wrong here, I believe that's why we named the teddy bear the teddy bear. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. That's what I've heard. I've obviously done no research into it because I'm only going by what I've heard in some of the books I've read. Like I mentioned before, I listened to this book about World War One, and there was an American character in there, and he said something about Teddy Roosevelt, and that's where the teddy bear was named from. Anyway, so we're going to be checking it out. I'm really keen to see this. But before we do, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra frisky, you may as well hit the like button as well. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee page linked down in the description if you want to help support the channel. That would be freaking awesome. I also have a Patreon page linked down in the description. Now, today is the day I'm releasing the first part of my 8-part Desert Storm series on there. I've really been looking forward to this. I've sort of figured out a way that I can record it because my camera, a couple of the videos are quite long, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. So if you want to check that out, that's also linked in the description. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into how Teddy Roosevelt got shot and still did an 84-minute speech.
Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, served his terms from 1901 to 1909, but didn't feel like 2 terms was enough for old Teddy. Roosevelt would run again in 1912, this time on the third-party Bull Moose ticket. Unfortunately for Teddy, during one of his campaign stops in the Midwest, someone had a different plan. A lone gunman would attempt to assassinate old Teddy Bear. Today we're looking at when Teddy Roosevelt was shot and still gave an 84-minute speech. But before we do...
I find that incredible, because I mean, if you think about how it is nowadays, like, oh, broke a nail, no speech today, I'm not doing it. And that goes for not just the American president. I hope you're not, I'm not singling anyone out. I'm adding all the politicians into the same block.
Feats you want us to cover next. Now we're going to speak softly while Teddy carries a big speech. A little after 8 p.m. on October 14, 1912, Teddy Roosevelt left the Hotel Gilpatrick in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Roosevelt had a jam-packed campaign schedule filled with speaking engagements in 3 different Midwest states. He was on his way to the final speech of the day, a real whopper clocking in at 50 pages, at the Milwaukee Auditorium. With a tight 84-minute speech folded into the breast of his overcoat pocket, next to a metal case for his glasses, Teddy made his way to his open-air vehicle, a thing that it would take far too many presidents to realize was not safe for presidential passage.
Please don't show it. I've seen that video and it's horrible. I can't imagine what his wife went through. Old JFK. Is it JFK? Oof, it's horrible video.
In his car, Teddy waved to his supporters. Unfortunately, Teddy misjudged the room. While he saw a mass of big Roosevelt superfans, one person had different plans. That's when a single shot rang out.
38 caliber.
The gunshot jolted the crowd. Roosevelt's would-be assassin was a Bavarian immigrant by the name of John Flaming Schrank, ex-saloon owner. Schrank was only 4 feet away from Roosevelt when he fired his 38 caliber revolver into the Rough Rider. Roosevelt allegedly brushed this bullet to the body off like it was a fly. His knees bent slightly from the gunshot, only to shortly resume tipping his hat to the supporters around him who did not just try to murder him. When his associate Henry Kochums helpfully asked him if he had recently, like in the last second, been hit by a bullet, Roosevelt responded, "He pinked me, Harry." Pinked, we're assuming, means hit, because Teddy took a bullet. It only took moments after Schrank fired his pistol for him to be detained. Roosevelt's stenographer, former football player Elbert E. Martin, along with his former fellow Rough Rider A.O. Girard, sprung into action and lunged towards Roosevelt's attempted assassin. Martin's Rough Rider instincts served him well, going for the pistol while apprehending Schrank to prevent a second rogue shot. The dynamic duo were given immediate backup from several Milwaukee police officers and,
Look how freaking happy he looks. What a twat.
together, this group of men overtook the shooter. The crowd of Roosevelt fans screamed for the assailant's death, like any good unhinged angry mob would. As the shouts increased for blood, Roosevelt attempted to settle everybody down. "Don't hurt him. Bring him here to me," Roosevelt demanded. The officers then presented Schrank. Roosevelt then turned his attempted murderer over to the police, saying, "Officers, take charge of him and see that there is no harm done to him." As he examined the pistol, he took a moment to perform a little roast of his gun by saying, "A .38 Colt has an ugly drive." After which one of his secretaries
What a
pointed out the
badass.
bullet hole in Roosevelt's overcoat, to which Roosevelt replied, "I know it." Roosevelt was now aware he had been injured, and with the culprit apprehended, he could take a moment to assess things such as, have my lungs been punctured by this bullet? He opened his coat and all immediately noticed his shirt was covered in blood.
Oh, man.
Roosevelt, in the manliest of tests, tested his own internal bleeding by coughing into his hands to see if there was any blood. Thankfully, the cough was dry. Feeling confident that his bloodless hand meant a bulletless lung, Roosevelt insisted on continuing with his scheduled speech. Far be it for him to disappoint his fans. Roosevelt told his colleagues, "I know I am good now. I don't know how long I may be. This may be my last cause to our people. And while I am good, I am going to drive to the hall and deliver my speech." All of it.
Now, I know nothing about Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, but when you're willing to freaking go through a gunshot to deliver your speech for the people, as he says, holy smokes. That's incredible, eh? I don't think I would have been able to be like, "Oh my God, I've been shot. Take me to the hospital."
His
Freaking
campaign
heck.
staffers implored Roosevelt not to give a long speech after being shot in the chest, including his doctor, Scurry Terrell. Scurry was a throat specialist with an unfortunate first name that was kept on staff with old Rosie to make sure he didn't lose his voice while on the campaign trail. After they arrived at the Milwaukee auditorium, two more doctors who were waiting for Roosevelt's speech were crowdsourced. The doctors told Roosevelt it was probably a bad idea to go on stage and give a speech after getting shot in the chest, but Teddy would not be deterred. He took out a handkerchief, put it over the bullet hole, buttoned his shirt, and headed to the stage. Bad ass.
Badass.
Harry Cochums gave a riveting introduction for Roosevelt, while also managing expectations for the speech about to be given by a man recently blasted, telling the crowd, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have something to tell you, and I hope you will receive it with calmness." As he left his hotel, a dastardly hand aimed a revolver at the colonel, and he will speak to you.
Such a cool word, eh? Dastardly. You dastardly villain.
His hotel, a dastardly hand aimed a revolver at the colonel, and he will speak to you, though there is a bullet somewhere in his breast. Someone in the crowd, possibly a time traveler, shouted "fake news," while others asked, more compassionately, if he would.
The pop-up they did was brilliant, you have to admit. Love him or hate him, that pop-up was awesome.
Roosevelt used this as an
Fake
opportunity
news.
to make a grand entrance, showing the surely horrified crowd his bloody coat and vest. He asked the now traumatized crowd to hush up and listen, saying, "I don't know whether you fully understand that I have been shot, but it takes more than that to take down a bull moose." Even though he promised the crowd he'd keep it tight due to the bullet possibly lodged into his chest, Roosevelt broke his promise and spoke to the crowd for a whopping 84 minutes.
84 minutes.
He acknowledged the length of the speech while also reminding the crowd that this very long speech they were subjected to also saved his life, saying, "Fortunately, I had my manuscript, so you see, I was going to make a long speech.
Oh, man.
And friends, there's a bullet. There is where the bullet went through, and it probably saved the bullet from going through my heart. The bullet is in me now, but I will try my best." Roosevelt reminded the audience that despite the attempt on his life, his concerns were for them. As he spoke, doctors stayed close on the ready for him to collapse at any moment. After 45 minutes, Teddy promised only 15 more while taking a sip of water. His doctors told him to stop talking, probably out of dire medical consequences, but also perhaps it was a really long speech. Teddy responded,
Dying of
"It
boredom.
is getting to be."
I was just gonna say, I don't know, maybe getting shot would have been okay. Like 84 minutes. Have you ever sat in one of those? Oh, I couldn't sit for that long listening to a speech of any kind, even if it's something I'm really interested in. I remember my ex-girlfriend when Lord of the Rings came out. I think it was the last one. She's like, oh, let's go to the cinema. All right. I loved The Lord of the Rings. I've never seen it again after that, but I was so freaking bored and uncomfortable. I hate sitting like that for so long. I've got to get up and stretch my legs, got to be able to grab a glass of water, just be comfortable. I can't handle that long, boring sitting.
But also
Ugh, I was a
perhaps
terrible
it was a
student
really
at school.
long speech. Teddy responded, "It is getting to be better and better as time goes by." Short of breath at times and with difficulty standing on his feet, the color began to drain from his face.
Flippin'
This
heck.
prompted one audience member to ask the withering man to maybe sit down for a minute.
Yeah.
He responded, "I thank you, madam, but I don't mind a bit." History does not record
What a
whether this
badass.
woman who spoke up was impressed by Roosevelt or had her feelings hurt because he didn't take her advice. As he read his speech, he dropped each page to the ground, giving a glimpse of the bullet holes in the pages of his speech to those with good seats in the front, in case they also wanted to scream out suggestions or complaints. Roosevelt wasn't insane. He, of course, eventually made his way to an actual hospital after his epic speech wrapped up. It was there at Johnston Emergency Hospital in Milwaukee that doctors discovered, despite being covered up with a handkerchief, that Teddy had given all 84 minutes of his speech with a hole in his chest the size of a dime. His wound was cleaned and bandaged twice for good measure before he was sent up to the operating room. Physician Dr. Joseph Colt Bloodgood, an ominous and I think good
What a
name for a
name.
doctor, joined Drs. R.G. Sale and T.A. Stratton in tending to Roosevelt. One of the nurses apologized without authorization on behalf of the entire city of Milwaukee. Roosevelt assured her everything was chill between him and Cream City. Yeah, that's actually one of the nicknames of Milwaukee. Cream City. Roosevelt knew his long-winded speech probably saved his life and prevented the bullet from causing further damage to his body. But not to be outdone, the humble, steel-enforced case for his glasses probably did some of the heavy lifting in keeping the bullet from penetrating all of his organs. That, along with his thick suspenders and large overcoat. Practically everything he carried and wore helped to stop the bullet. But it was the addition of the 50-page speech, doubled over in his breast pocket, that rendered Roosevelt practically bulletproof in the spot in which he was shot. If not for this collection of thick items surrounding Roosevelt's vital organs, the gun used in the shooting, if fired at point blank, would have certainly killed him. A fact he gladly kept reminding his audience of during his long speech, that the very meaty speech probably saved the bullet from going into his heart. Needless to say, it's rare that one is in their right mind when running around firing guns at former presidents. But in Schrank's case, it was emphatically true. When he was apprehended, authorities found a letter in his possession that was all the evidence they needed, aside from the many witnesses. Schrank traveled from New York City to murder Roosevelt because of a dream he had in which President William McKinley sat up in his coffin and pointed to a man he dream recognized as Teddy Roosevelt, and McKinley said, "This is my murderer. Avenge my death." Schrank awoke and did the only logical thing of taking this dream verbatim and avenging the death of President William McKinley, a man whose death was in no way caused by Theodore Roosevelt. With this dream journal, Schrank was assessed and found to be experiencing insane delusions and was found unfit to stand trial. He was committed to the Central State Hospital for Criminally Insane in Waupun, Wisconsin, where he remained until he died in 1943. Roosevelt's
didn't
Bull
get it
Moose
out.
Party ultimately lost the 1912 election after splitting the Republican vote.
You would think he would have got so much support after doing that, getting shot. Now I don't know the politics or anything like that, so I've said that already. But I mean, imagine that. Imagine yeah, he got shot. He did an 84-minute long speech, and yeah, you came second. You didn't win, mate.
And handing the presidency over to Democrat Woodrow Wilson. But the bullet in his chest would remain comfortably in Teddy's body forever. The doctors at Johnston Emergency Hospital, after much debate, determined via X-ray the bullet alongside Teddy's fourth rib was too dangerous to operate on and remove. Quite a souvenir to have. But that's Teddy Roosevelt, a true Rough Rider. So what do you think?
Fair play. Fair play to him. What a badass. I mean, like, I said like 2 seconds ago, I don't know the politics or anything, but for anybody, I would respect anybody, doesn't matter who they are, to stand up and give an 84-minute speech after, what did he say, being plinked in the chest by a 38 revolver. Impressive stuff, man. Really impressive stuff. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.